It's Hyper Halloween!
Let's talk about a sci-fi horror film that features the deadliest of Spawn, Deadly Spawn from 1983. Written and directed by Douglas McQueen, I guess, Deadly Spawn was originally an attempt to cash in on the success of Ridley Scott's Alien, but it ended up being a very unique monster movie of its own. The Deadly Spawn is actually an alien that lands on Earth. It crashes down in a meteor in a remote rural area near the mountains. There are a couple of campers nearby that discover the crashed meteor. Almost sounds reminiscent to the Blob, but moving on. Of course, they are immediately attacked and killed by the creature within. We get a glimpse of the monster through its silhouette on the camper's tent, right before it kills the campers. Some time passes, and it seems that the creature discovered a house to hide in. The house in question is home to the young main protagonist, Charles, and his family. Charles's father, Sam, wakes up early and discovers that the hot water is on the fritz. He goes to the basement to investigate, and he notices a weird smell. Something is also amiss as he discovers a hole in one of the water pipes. It almost looks like something had taken a bite out of the pipe. Instead of running away, Sam keeps exploring. He eventually spots what looks like blood circling the drain on the floor, and that's when the Deadly Spawn gets him. It makes an absolute mess while devouring him. Blood even splatters all around as you hear the creature eating him. We also see the creature doing something to his body as well through the shadows on the wall. Charles's mother, Barbara, finally decides to get out of bed and ready for the day. She notices that Sam is still not back from the basement, so she goes to explore. She discovers the freshly splattered blood all around and decides to go further. It's honestly ridiculous that she wouldn't leave and just find someone else just in case, but hey, I guess we wouldn't have a movie, would we? Actually, speaking of this basement looks so out of place in this house. It almost looks like a dungeon or something given how it looks and how spacious it is. In any case, Barbara enters the area where Sam was killed and hears the Deadly Spawn, as well as sees blood going down the drain. Sam's hand touches her shoulder, and she's relieved to find him. Of course, the hand is actually being devoured by the Deadly Spawn, and the viewer now gets a glimpse of the creature, and it is glorious. This thing has tons of sharp teeth and a huge mouth to swallow its victims. It immediately attacks Barbara, and we see some awesome practical effects being used. The Deadly Spawn makes short work of her, and we're then introduced to two new characters. Both these characters awake to screaming, but the screaming is coming from Charles's room. Charles is apparently a horror movie fanatic, and he's up at 7 a.m. watching a horror movie. His room is also covered in horror movie paraphernalia. He has posters of King Kong and Frankenstein, several monster masks, several horror magazines, and some monster replicas like Godzilla and a giant ant. The rest of the family starts to wake up and go about their day. We see things start to move around the house as the movie progresses, indicating that the Deadly Spawn are on the prowl. An electrician shows up to work on the house, and he enters the basement from the outside. Charles decides to don a scary costume and go into the basement and/or dungeon to try to scare the electrician. Once down there, though, Charles hears weird noises and sees blood everywhere. He doesn't seem to be worried about all that, though, given the expression on his face. But either way, he spies a weird creature slithering through the water. He follows it, and that's when he discovers a severed hand as well as the Deadly Spawn. It touches him, but doesn't attack. My guess is it's probably because he liked his costume. Actually, the Deadly Spawn doesn't attack because, well, it can't see. It only attacks based on noise. Charles drops a flashlight to reveal a dead body near the Deadly Spawn and several smaller Deadly Spawns feeding off of it. He stands there while watching all the creatures move around and chew on things. The bigger Deadly Spawn is feeding the smaller spawns the recently severed body parts. Charles has an older brother that's also in the house. The brother's friends show up to the house to hang out, and they brought a strange creature that they found along their way. His female friend dumps a Deadly Spawn into their sink. They spend some time trying to figure out what the creature is. They worry that, whatever it is, isn't fully grown yet. The scene changes back to Charles, and he's still watching the madness unfold. Charles realizes that the Deadly Spawn hunts by sound as a smaller one gets trapped in a rat trap. Charles snaps his fingers and alerts all of them to his presence. He grabs the flashlight as quietly as possible and tosses it across the room to get the creatures to back off. Back to Charles's brother and his friends, they decide to dissect the deadly spawn creature that they found. The scene lingers for a long time, and it's honestly really gross. The friends start to notice odd things throughout the house at this point. The deadly spawns are heard moving through the pipes, and were even seen slipping out of an open window earlier, so it is safe to assume that the spawn are going to terrorize everyone in the local area. Plus, we knew the deadly spawn were out of the basement since the friends brought the dead one into the house. To speed up this review a bit, the deadly spawn creatures begin to go after Charles, his brother, and his brother's friends. The giant spawn creature manages to go upstairs, and everyone tries to find a place to hide. Charles tries to kill the large creature, but he isn't able to quite do it. The family and friends lure the creature to the attic, where Charles manages to blow the thing up. We then see a group of people and the local authorities burning a bunch of deadly spawn that they found on their way to Charles's family's house. They hunt any and every small spawn that they can find. We're then treated to a really cool shot. It's a model shot of the house. It was shown at the beginning of the movie to, establish where the movie was taking place. Except this time, we see the mountain in the background lift up, revealing a giant deadly spawn creature. So, I did skip some of the crazy action that happens in the middle of the film. For instance, the aunt goes to a lunch party with her mother and friends, and the deadly spawn attack. It's probably one of my favorite scenes of the film given the crazy action that happens. In fact, there are a lot of fun action scenes in this movie. The creature design is probably my favorite thing about Deadly Spawn. It looks so intimidating and frightening. It's just a shame that the young actor didn't really react to it when he first saw it. Speaking of, the actor who played Charles is actually named Charles George Hildebrandt. He's actually the son of Tom Hildebrandt, one of the Deadly Spawn's producers. Tom Hildebrandt worked with his twin brother Greg as fantasy and science fiction artists. Known as the brothers Hildebrandt, they actually created a ton of media that ranged from comic books, to children's books, to trading cards, to calendars, and much more. I'm curious if the horror movie paraphernalia in Charles's room is actually a product of the brothers Hildebrandt. I couldn't find anything on that though, so unfortunately I don't know. Apparently there was an unofficial sequel made called Metamorphosis: The Alien Factor. I've never seen the movie, but looking at images, I can see similarities between the alien creatures. Apparently Metamorphosis had a bigger budget than the Deadly Spawn, so the producers wanted to keep them separate from one another. Funny enough though, Metamorphosis is actually called the Deadly Spawn 2, The Metamorphosis, in parts of Asia. All in all though, if you're looking for a scary movie with a unique monster and awesome practical and gore effects, then give the Deadly Spawn a watch.